30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and
Well,
you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning again. This is Jonathan Small, host and producer of All About You. And All About You is one of two different talk shows that I have the pleasure of hosting and producing every single week at AccessTV.org studios. And All About You is a show that's designed to give you, the viewers, the background information and just everything on a biological level of the particular guest. This morning we have a returning guest to the AccessTV.org network studios. Had the pleasure of interviewing him last year on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley Talk Show, and I look forward to having him back this morning. The guest this morning is the founder and CEO of Sutton House, Inc., located in Baltimore, Maryland, no other than Dr. Ted Sutton. Good morning, Dr. Sutton. How are you doing?
Good. I'm blessed. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. I mean, you're putting me on cloud nine. It's a pleasure to have you back here, Dr. Sutton. We're going to have a biographical show on your life, but briefly in about 30 seconds to a minute, could you just let people know a little bit about yourself and background before we get into your biological life story?
Yes. Actually, I feel I have a unique life, and where it came from family who were civil rights leaders, and also a godfather that was one of the people they wrote the series The Wire behind. But having those experiences and changing my entire life that allowed me to dedicate all of my time in life and trying to make sure that some young people don't go down the same path that I went through, and then were able to make a difference out here now.
Okay, well taken. Dr. Sutton, you were kind of born in Baltimore, I believe the west side or the west end of Baltimore. Could you let people know a little bit about what it was like growing up in Baltimore?
Well, I mean, it was really something. I never saw Baltimore as being as dangerous as people have kind of made it out, to be. I was born in Baltimore, and but growing up, was something that ended up just kind of changing as far as I was growing up. So it was really something, to we had rules and different things as far as that. And so I was one that actually, lived in Baltimore, but I frequented an area that was called Park Heights, for the most part. And that was an area that I had a chance and opportunity to see some things that probably, as a youth, it made me just look and see things different. And so, I would say that, being a teenager, my youth was, riding the bikes and going probably much farther in throughout the city than I should have been with me and my homeboys that were on our bikes and different things, but being a teenager and kind of like uh, gravitating to, some of the streets, and then also, kind of getting into the rap game.
Mm.
And I think that was a part that played a major part, in my life, just, the rap game and, being, in the streets, and it really took a different turn from the direction that my parents were going, as far as civil rights in the church.
Well, again, when you think about Baltimore, technically it's a southern city, but it is kind of a unique city because you have your own
Hmm.
style and dialect that's kind of unique to Baltimore, and you have so many famous people. I mean, when you listen to Mel Kiper Jr., you can definitely hear he sounds like he's from Baltimore. Y'all have this reputation of just a different level of operating. It's like it's a fast-paced city. But
Right.
but growing up in Baltimore, do you feel like you're a typical Southern city, or do you feel like you are a Northern city or a Mid-Atlantic city? What's the whole vibe of how you identify the Baltimore style?
You know what? I would say it's a city that is definitely, I would say definitely a fast pace with a Southern hospitality also way, because yes, we are right there at the Mason Dixon line, but we consider like DC on down really south.
Mm-hmm.
So and we don't consider ourselves like New York. So everybody's like, "Oh, I want to be like New York," and we kind of like, "Nah, we want to be Baltimore." And I think it just has a different, kind of like spill, with that. So, I would say it, that it's just it's kind of a unique city,
Mm.
per se. I know a lot of people say, well, well, we're unique here and we're unique there. I mean, I really see, like when, people are here, they will see that yes, we have the good food and we have some Southern hospitality, ways, and then also we have some Southern kind of ratchet ways also.
Right.
And but then you also have, the way that we'll make up certain things with styles and everything else. So it also has that quick, pace, as far as different things. So, it's a unique city. So I definitely don't consider it Southern,
Uh-huh.
and we don't want to be considered like New Yorkers.
Right.
So, the only way I can explain is we Baltimore, and not even the Baltimore with the T. We like Baltimore like the D. We Baltimore.
Baltimore, yeah, yeah, definitely. And you got a lot of famous people, a lot of popular people that was born and raised in Baltimore. I mentioned Mel Kiper Jr., ESPN, NFL analyst. You have
Hmm.
Jada Pinkett Smith,
Hmm.
Monique, Drew Hill. Tupac lived in Baltimore briefly, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you have a long list of people, and you actually went to junior high school with Monique. What was she like
Yeah,
when you was going?
yeah. Oh man, she was man. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know a lot of people like, man, she's difficult, or man. I'm gonna tell you, my homegirl, she was cool as far as I was concerned. I never saw, that person that they say that they see.
Mm,
But I do say this, what I'm saying, she definitely had to build a shell around her where don't mess with me.
mm-hmm,
So as people used to try to, let's say, pick on her, or not just her, because she had a little crew that she was of homegirls that she used to be with. And I never had a problem with not even one of them. All of them was cool as far as with me. And this is, it's like I said, in middle school. And so, to me, I mean, she was really something. I always kind of joke about when she used to work at Popeyes on Liberty Road, and different things, like that. But as far as I was, concerned, she was such a sweet person, but she was definitely somebody that was like, look, don't take my kindness for weakness, because I'm definitely not weak.
So what we see about Monique as an adult in her stand-up comedy and television, you could kind of sense that was her personality and makeup as far back as junior high school.
Yes, actually it was. I mean, because I loved in that cafeteria, and somebody would say something slick about, her or maybe her girlfriends or one of her girlfriends, because she had a girlfriend, and it was I actually even heard her talk about it on one of her specials, saying that who was really kind of a little handicapped, saying, but she was the sweetest person, and when people would say something about her, and when people would, she would literally like act like that was her pup. Like she was like, "You are not coming for her. I would rather you come for me."
Mm-hmm.
And so, and with that being, the case, saying she would definitely step out there and let them know that, she is not to be dealt with. And so she had a friend named Sharice, and she was, really the one of the sweetest people, also. And her whole crew, they was cool. But she definitely was able to play the dozens. And when
Yeah.
I say that, meaning you start talking about my mama, I'm gonna start talking about your mom.
Right. Right.
And you know what I'm saying? And you start talking about my weight, I'm gonna start talking about how big your head is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about, how you can't read. And so, and it wasn't like to try to just put somebody down as much as it was trying to show how witty you could be with being able to have a quick comeback after somebody has kind of like tried to put you in the trick box, but you let them know I'm not the one.
Yeah. Well, you can definitely pick up about Monique, man. She speaks her mind. She's fast tongue. You know, I mean,
Right, right.
she's an actress and a stand-up comedian. But I think that's kind of her personality in general, from what you just explaining. Now, the story of you being a b-ball player or basketball player, Baltimore was known for having some good, if not great, basketball players. Muggsy Bogues, this Dunbar High School, I believe in East Baltimore. And for what you telling me, Muggsy Bogues, 5'3", was gonna dunk on you. Did he actually dunk on you, or did he try to dunk on you?
It's funny you bring that up, because that's not like my highest point in my life. You know what I'm saying? That this guy at this height, you know what I'm saying, literally came down the court and was coming full speed, and I'm in the middle. I was actually playing center. I was playing a small center at the time. I was maybe like 6'3" at the time. I'm 6'4" now, you know what I'm saying? And you know, and this dude tried to come down, man, and literally like dunk on me. You know what I'm saying? Now, I will say it was not successful.
Okay.
It was not successful. He did not make the dunk, but he actually showed that he could dunk, because he tried 3 different times when the game was over, and we sat there and watched, because I was just like, I'll put up money that this boy can't dunk. But I'm glad I didn't put the money up, because the 3rd time he actually did dunk. It wasn't a real hard flush, like his entire wrist was over it, but he was able to actually, you know, dunk the ball. And to be honest with you, you know, with his nephews, Squeaky and Terry, who were my point guards on my team, you know, later on in life, I was happy to be able to share with people that guy that's out there on that court right there, I was like, man, he tried to dunk on me. You know what I'm saying? I was happy to tell it then. I wasn't happy to speak on it at the time when it happened. But, you know, later on, man, I was real proud that he was able to really, you know, make Baltimore proud, then let people know that there's something good can come out of Lafayette Projects.
But he never actually officially dunked on you. He tried to dunk on you, and he dunked. But, you know, your rep would have been on the line if Muggsy Bogues, 5'3", would have dunked on you, 6'3". So he never got the ball dunked in your face, from what you're telling me?
No, he never, no. I just want to clear that up. He never dunked on me. He never dunked on me, you know. But see, you got to also understand how I saw it. Even though he was a little older than me, he was in high school. He was a senior at Dunbar High School, and at the time, the brother from Georgetown used to come down to Dunbar to watch our players.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, so he never dunked on me, but the mere fact that he had the heart to come down and see, and this was my first time meeting him, so I didn't know how good he was. You know what I'm saying? For him to try to think that he could be at that height and try to challenge me, man, I gave him all the props in the world after that, man. Even with him missing, him having the heart to try it, man, you know, you got my vote.
But he was blazing fast. Would you say he was one of the fastest players in the NBA, or one of the fastest players that you ever seen play basketball?
I've never seen anybody play any faster than that young man. I never. In fact, to be honest with you, when he would work out in the gym, in the weight room, he would literally be working out mainly with his legs. Now he did a little on his arms, but his legs, man, were insane. And so he just wanted to be able to jump higher and jump higher, you know. And so when I had a chance to meet him, you know, saying, you know, I really was impressed, you know, with him, because at first I didn't like him. I didn't like him because I'm like, this guy tried to dunk him, you know what I'm saying? And then later, man, I was just like, man, I got to give this guy his props, you know what I'm saying? Because there was no fear in his eyes, you know, coming down. And when you are a big man, you know, saying, you know, that's like part of your job is to instill fear To
Mm-hmm.
let people like Matumbo would say, not in my house.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? We're supposed to be able to instill fear into somebody attempting to come in the middle, meaning you can shoot all the 3-pointers you want, you can shoot half court points, you know what I'm saying, but you are not coming in this paint.
Right.
And so, man, I really just I had a lot of respect that he even attempted to come down and do something that I hadn't had somebody try on me.
Well, Dr. Sutton, I mean, you got skills in basketball, b-ball, but you also got skills as a rapper, hip hop artist. What did you like the best between hip hop, rapping, or b-ball on basketball?
Well, basketball was an outlet for me. So one, it had the opportunity for me to meet people on the court, and I ended up a lot of those guys that I ended up playing with. So people I was in class with in school were normally not necessarily my friends,
Mm,
that I hung with. Some of them were cool, but the ones that I actually hung with were the ones that I played ball with, the ones that talked trash on the court, the ones they were the ones that I ended up kind of like gravitating to and different things of that nature, and it ended up some of that was good and some of that was a little rough and challenging, but I would say it was definitely an outlet because I would have been more of an introvert. You
mm,
know what I'm saying? I'm not an extrovert. I wouldn't. My older brother, he was the one that everybody knew, and he was like he wanted to be the mayor or something, waving and everything, man. But me, man, I was just like I would watch people, I would observe where I'm at, and everything. So I wasn't that person that was just always trying to be out there. So when I ended up meeting, people that I talked to, and we used to hang out and get pizza together, man. That ended up being my internal crew. And
mm.
and that's just how that was. So when I hooked up with them guys from the projects, man, it just turned, into a total different way of life for me.
Well, you didn't actually technically live in the projects, but you went to the projects. I just want to clarify something before I make this next statement.
No, I never lived in the projects, and but when I was told that if you want to be the best, you got to play the best,
Mm-hmm.
and so one of my good friends, man, he had friends that were in the projects. They happened to be Muggsy Bogues' nephews,
Mm-hmm.
and so we came from West Side, and it's funny because I felt like we had to sneak into Lafayette Projects, which is officially like the heart of East Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And so East Baltimore has never really had a good love for guys from West Baltimore because I guess they thought we just felt we were better or whatever the situation was. So we wasn't bragging that we was from West Baltimore while we in the center of Lafayette Projects. But I will say, man, it was definitely an experience that I'll never forget.
Well, it's this old saying about the projects. I mean, it was only three different people that could go through the projects if you was growing up. You had to be a rough dude with a rep, or you had to have some family member or friend that could vouch for you, or you had to be a good, if not great, basketball, football player, maybe a boxer. So, what category did you actually fall into that you had to pass to go into the projects on another side of the tracks in East Baltimore at that?
Well, I would say I had two of the ones that you mentioned. One was we were known as being a little rough, but we were young though. See,
Mm-hmm.
that was the only thing that was kind of against us. We were young, but we definitely looked the part and acted the part. So we wasn't gonna let nobody punk us anywhere we went.
Right.
And then on the other side, by us having those guys down there, just like I said, Muggsy Bogues' nephews and things, they were kind of like escorts, man. They were like passes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So people know we with them, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we belong here.
Right.
And so that was pretty much so I would have definitely two out of the three you were talking about.
Exactly. And keep in mind, this is real, man. It was not no joke. I mean, the projects all over the country, but I can imagine what it was like in Baltimore at that. But with your hip hop style and skills, you had performed, I guess, or you went on tour with Salt and Pepper and LL Cool J. Could you kind of elaborate a little bit about that if I'm saying it correctly?
Well, to clear it up, I did later sign when I was about 18. I signed with a record label that was UNM Records, that was a subsidiary to what was working with Universal Studios. So, but I signed with them, and I put out a little single, and different things of that nature. And things didn't work out when the big deal was supposed to come later. But I definitely was good with the rap game, and so I ended up not going on tour with them. But when they came to Baltimore, I was able to open up for people like the Boogie Boys. They had a song called The Fly Girls.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The Salt and Pepper, when they were called the Showstoppers at the time, because they had the song out that was 6 minutes Dougie Fresh, show. And then also LL Cool J. And unfortunately, he didn't finish his show because they started shooting when guys, kind of like got to fighting inside the spot. And so he didn't get a chance to finish. He had just started his song, My Radio.
Mm.
And, I did something with Shabba Ranks, Super Cat, Ice Cube from the, what was it? He was with the Lynch Mob at this point. He wasn't with NWA at the time. And so and I had a chance to drive Yo-Yo, the rapper, to go get some soap powder, is what she said, so she could wash some clothes, because she was actually on the show with the tour too. So I didn't necessarily go out of town on tour with them, but when the people came to Baltimore, I was able to get on the roster. So that was an amazing thing, and it was also like bragging rights. And I also had a chance to, when they had a Funky Fresh show that came to Baltimore that had Run DMC and the Fat Boys and everything. I had a chance to be backstage and and meet the people, man. So I would say, as a teenager, man, I was kind of living it up.
Well, let me jump on that last statement that you made, because if you remember back in '84 when Houdini did the video, "The Freaks Come Out at Night" and
I
Escape.
remember that.
Well,
I remember that. I got a special story about Houdini, but go ahead.
Well, that was in Baltimore, because at the end he said, "Baltimore, we love you." So, and the crowd was just really into it. I mean, they started off the first video with "The Freaks Come Out at Night," and then they
That's
showed.
the show. That's the show I was on stage with that I was just talking about.
Oh,
I was
okay.
in the 11th. I was in the 11th grade, man, and that's the show I was talking about, man.
I just wanted to
You know what I'm
clarify
saying?
that. You're right, right. So they had a good time. Like, they had a great time putting that video together, and I would have never known that if the fact that Ecstasy said, "Baltimore, we love you" towards the end of "The Freaks Come Out at Night."
Right,
So
right.
if there's any misconception that Baltimore love hip hop, that right there was a good example,
Oh no,
man.
Baltimore, we was definitely on the map, and it was funny, man, because I ended up kind of getting into it with them. Nothing real serious, but the brother, and I forgot the one that had the Zorro hat. You know,
Mm,
his twin brother actually, like hollered at the same girl that I was hollering at. You
right.
know what I'm saying? And so it was a crazy situation. And so she ended up going up to New York. He invited up to New York. And then when she found out that he still lived in the projects with his mother, saying, then she wanted to kind of come back, and holler at me. And I was like, it don't work like that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I guess she thought that because he was on stage or he was related to him, that they were like millionaires, and man, it didn't go down like that, man. So it's a funny thing, because I didn't have no real beef, with him, but it definitely showed me about who, what I'm saying, I was trying to holler at the time. So it was what it was.
Yeah. And I remember that video, man. You had a fine looking girl. She was wearing a leather. I mean, I'm going back as a teenager.
Right.
And I don't know if Baltimore got a rep for having good looking ladies. I mean, I don't know what the vibe is, but I mean, every city that people talk about that's new, they think the girls or the guys look better than their hometown. But Baltimore, I
Right.
mean, so do the girls down in Baltimore back then, they had a certain style or type of guys that they like that you could kind of talk about?
Well, it's so funny, man. That's when light skin was in.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So if you was a had that curly hair and the green eyes and was light skinned, you was, kind of like a pretty boy. And so it was kind of like the same way with the girls.
Yeah.
And so what was unfortunate is that the girls that kind of had that like Ray Lewis back, you know
Hmm.
what I'm saying, and they was kind of built like they could be the linebackers on one of the Ravens. You know what I'm saying, man? They didn't they gave those pretty girls the blues, man. So, it would be something. I'm like, baby girl, just walk away. Just walk away, because if this girl kind of go in on you, it's not gonna go well for you. You're gonna have a bad day.
Right.
And so, but to me, it was all in, kind of like fun, and different things of that nature. But yeah, I would say that, the girls that would go out to the shows and that would really dress up with them kind of like move something dresses, man, they were the girls that, guys wanted to kind of like, holler at.
Dr. Ted Sutton, you sound like you in your 20s, man. It sound like you haven't missed a beat, like you know the whole game, if you really break it down to it. Now, Jada Pinkett Smith, did she grow up in the west side of Baltimore or another part of the city?
Well, I put it like this. I know when I met her, she was living not necessarily in the city. She was living kind of like in the area where I was. She was near Woodlawn.
Okay.
And so, because we crashed her cookout that she had at her stepfather's house. He was a prominent lawyer here,
Hmm.
well-known lawyer here. And it's funny, I mean, I didn't necessarily mean to crash her cookout because one of my guys in my crew told him we were invited. But when we got there, he knew somebody there, but we wasn't invited. And so we ended up kind of bum rushing the cookout anyway. And then I just, instead of just keep the peace, I was just like, well, let's just go in and leave. Because see, it's really funny. She used to like hardcore guys. That's why I was a little surprised when she hooked up with, saying with Will Smith, because man, she used to actually. There was an episode on Different World where Tupac came on and played her boyfriend, her ex boyfriend.
Hmm.
Well, and his name was what was it, Scipio. I know that when he came on the show, that the name of her actual real boyfriend, who used to be in the drug game, actually was the same name that she used for Tupac on the show. That's why I was looking at the show like, wow, boy, y'all really keeping it real.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But she was, she was kind of cool, in different things, man. In fact, when Tupac he was a little younger than me, so when he was going to Roland Park, middle school, and then when he ended up going to uh, Baltimore School for the Arts, that's where my daughter actually, was going there also for a minute. Saying when he was going there, they would when they but so before the street stuff, he was doing commercials for like Mondom and Mall and taking pictures, man, and so when I initially knew him, he was good rapper, but he wasn't like into, the straight up thug life. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? As far as I knew, he lived on Greenmount Avenue at the time. You know what I'm saying? But, and that was just, how that was though. But I always heard that, he was, a good brother and down in the whole nine, man. So I never heard no like grimy stuff about him.
Yeah, and that episode I remember because when Tupac came on A Different World, I guess he came with his crew from Baltimore,
Right,
and
right.
they were still acting, the kind of wildish and everything like that.
Hmm.
Then he ends up getting into a fight or beef with Jada's boyfriend at the
Current
time,
boyfriend, right,
current
right.
boyfriend at the time. But Jada was trying to, I guess, get away from that wildness in Baltimore, and she was trying to talk to Tupac and saying she's a different woman. And again, Baltimore is like a fast-paced city. I mean, it's a lot of things go down in Baltimore on any given day, but there are a lot of good people like yourself who really care about your city, and you definitely do other things. I mean, we're having a good time talking about hip hop and talking about sports, but you really
Hmm.
got a true dedication for wanting to give back and make your city a much better place. Could you kind of elaborate a little bit on this too?
Well, I mean, and just to elaborate on some of that, of what you were saying, that's some of what bothered me. I think we had a conversation last night, and I was like, I went to high school with Kevin Lyles, and he was in a group called the New Marks, back in the day, and he's the one that used to run Def Jam, and I think he was Trey Songz's manager, and he was doing some big things, man. But I think what bothered me is, I think, and I shared with you, is that when they did an interview with him, he was telling people he was from DC.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I'm like, man, what I mean? I know most people, like when they even show the map on, on, let's say on a national channel, and they'll show a map and they'll tell you the weather that's coming. They won't say Baltimore. They'll put like, like the weather is snowing in New York, it's snowing in Philly, and then it's snowing in, what I'm saying, in DC. Like they just skip over us.
Yeah.
And so that's why, to me, it's so significant, of us to represent, I would say where we from, take the good and the bad.
Right.
Saying like a young man that I mentored, is the young man Mario that was singing "Braid My Hair" and "You Should Let Me Love You" and was on Dancing with the Stars and a number of movies from Step It Up to, saying, Freedom Writers, saying, but I met him, he was getting into trouble, and then I started taking him under my wing, and I started taking him into the recording studio, and I saw that this boy was amazing as far as singing. But one thing that I love about him, if I call him for something, man, he has no problem with being available for me. He has no problem with speaking to a young person and pouring something positive in them. And, he even did a video for my daughter's Sweet 16 party. Saying, man, and he got on and he did a video and he sang on it and everything. But I love that he represents that, no matter where I go, I might be living in LA, I might be working on the show Empire, I might be doing different things. He said, but at the end of the day, man, I'm from Baltimore. Right. And I think that we have to have that mentality of not being ashamed of what, and where we come from.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to let them know that something good can come from what we come from, and that's how I kind of see it. Because I was telling somebody this last night, if all of the good people leave, then what's going to be left?
Right.
And so I'm one of the ones that I'm willing to fight and also try to right some of the wrongs that I've done. Right. Because I know some young people looked at me and thought it was cool when I was wearing those furs and lambskin coats and a big thick chain on my neck and everything, and driving a nice car, and it had the big Cherokee with the big gold rims on it and everything. And I'm just like, but you know what? But I actually had a chance. I lost a lot of friends, going to jail. They went to jail. Some of them got paralyzed. Some of them are dead. And I'm like, and so I need for you to not go down that direction, getting caught up with just stuff.
But Dr. Sutton, I mean, in Baltimore, how do you handle giving hope to people when every single year Baltimore averages, if not 300 homicides per year, close to 300 homicides per year? Dope, heroin, heavy drug, dope, heroin trade market in Baltimore, strung out. Shootings, gangbangings, a lot of stuff goes down on Baltimore on any given night. So when you're trying to advocate that things in Baltimore can get better, it could be better, how is it when you're trying to reach young people or people in general, knowing that all of these odds that they're dealing with day to day is just been in front of them? I mean, dope and heroin has just been so heavy in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. The Wire, a television show, if that's the true description of what Baltimore was like, that sounds like that was a nightmare. So when you're talking and trying to work towards solutions, how do you give people that sense of hope and structure that we can overcome these barriers that we have been stacked up against?
Well, one is that I'm not a talking testimony. I'm actually a walking testimony. Mm-hmm. So I let them know that even though I'm known as Dr. Ted now, I was known as Crazy Ted.
Right.
And so if I could change that narrative around, if I could actually, like the Rolling Stone magazine had interviewed me and they asked me what was the most significant place I spoke at. And I had to share with them that it was when I spoke at my high school, where my principal placed a bet I wouldn't make it to 21. And and my counselor said I shouldn't attempt to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up coming back some years later as the keynote speaker with my bachelor's, my master's, working on my doctorate degree after writing 2 books. And my message was, you're not trash, you're just tarnished.
Mm.
And I shared the testimony of me standing at that podium. And I'm almost getting emotional sharing, which I stood at that podium, and I had the opportunity to look at the counselor. The principal wasn't still there, but the counselor was still there, who had told me I should not attempt to go to college. And now today I have a higher degree than what he does.
Mm.
And so, and the icing on the cake, now, brother, this is the icing on the cake for me. They sat a man named Congressman Elijah Cummings next to me,
Mm-hmm.
and he was to give an award. And when he looked at me, and when he looked at the program, and then he looked at me again, and he looked at the program, he said, young brother, you got to tell me what you've been doing lately. And I said, yes, sir. I said, because the last time we were sitting next to each other, this was not the situation, because he was my attorney who was defending me. The last time we sat next to each other, he was defending me. And I had to listen to him talk. And I said, now today you have to listen to me talk.
Right.
And just that whole thing of that principal telling me, placing a bet on me, or that counselor saying what I couldn't be, and then seeing my old attorney, who the last time, I was sitting next to you were defending me, and to now be a person that is, pretty much being the keynote speaker of what a person could be. I just thought that was amazing. I thought that was amazing for me.
Well, Dr. Sutton, you just said, you go by actions. And when people from Baltimore, they look at you and you represent Baltimore and you're still there and you are involved with their daily lives and you're trying to really be sincere. Well, you're not trying. You are sincere. You're not trying to use them for money or grants. Although if you need that to get to the next level, then there's nothing wrong with that. Taking some money and putting it to good use for the betterments of the whole society. But the fact is, you can kind of cold talk. I mean, you can talk the hip hop game, street level game. You know the whole game backwards, and you know how to go towards the state legislative. You know how to go towards Congress. You know how to go towards entertainers. You know how to travel outside of the USA. So you are a real versatile, developed person. We was talking about the entertainers, the celebrities, and that's all good and dandy. But you are kind of a unique role model, if you want to go by that label, and somewhat of a hero that you could survive Baltimore, and not only survive it, man, but really be someone that they always say it's either you are what's that word they say, striving, or I don't know if striving or thriving, something like, no, it's either you're surviving or you're thriving. Maybe there's a middle ground to it, I'm not sure. But you know what the people in Baltimore have dealt with. You know what they're going through. But you also know, by you as an example, you could still defeat this game and you could still beat the odds underneath the right circumstances. So do they buy into you from what you have done and your sincerity?
Yes, they do. Just like I'm the founder of Men Against Murder, and also People Can Change. And I don't know if you can see, I'm wearing it, the shirt right here. People can change, because that's my motto. That is my slogan. That is what I don't just talk about. I walk about that. And so, so to me, saying to have the opportunity to be able to share with them, the only problem that I see at times is I have to really be focused, because sometimes some of the young guys, they're more impressed with what I did in the streets.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're more impressed that I used to carry a sawed-off shotgun. Sometimes they're more impressed that my godfather was Little Melvin Williams from American Gangster, and his godfather was a man named Julius the Lord Salisbury, and his godfather was a man named Meyer Lansky, who was Lucky Luciano and Al Capone's partner. And so sometimes they want to hear this gangster stuff. And what they have to also understand is I have to let them know I'm only showing you a point of reference of how far God has brought me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the key is for me. I've actually even told other people who wanted to interview me in different things that I refuse to talk about what I was when I was in the streets terrorizing, I would say Baltimore City, saying unless I can talk about what I'm doing now, because
Right.
I will not glorify something that took most of my friends, and most of my friends, like when I had to hold my friends' brains in while the paramedics came, or like when one of my other friends is serving life plus 20 underneath the ground in Texas, in a jail in Texas, and he's on something called no human contact.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at, they have to understand that there's life beyond mistakes, because we'll celebrate somebody coming home from prison, saying, and we'll throw a big party, but we don't have a party like that for a brother that just graduated high school.
Right.
And so we have to not major on minor stuff and minor on major stuff, and that's what sometimes is happening. So I'm very specific so that people won't glorify the part that they glorify. They'll give me access to different places. See, my old way and my past gives me access to be able to talk to the gang called the Americans in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Or to be able to talk to the Peace Stones and the Vice Lords in Chicago. Saying? Or to go and talk to Los Vatos, saying, in Tampa, Florida, and different things, and all around. So and being able to talk to the gangs in New Orleans and all over the country, and in Compton, California, and that has given me an access. So the same thing that was designed to destroy me ended up being a platform. But I want to let them know that their current situation in their final destination, and that they actually can make it. And what's so unfortunate about that is that when I talk to the youth, a lot of things that they tell me, they say that if they are very consistent across the board. Young people that I've talked to in England and South Africa and Zimbabwe, they have been key to this. They said if we had a way to provide financially for our family, and if we could live in a community that we didn't need to carry a gun or carry a knife, they said we would walk away from that culture, the gang culture,
Mm-hmm.
in a second, in a minute,
Right.
they will walk away from it.
Dr. Sutton, I mean, I have the luxury of having another type of show face to face that I can definitely bring you back and get into a lot of these issues. You mentioned in traveling throughout the country, traveling throughout the world, giving lectures, giving speeches, and you definitely stand out, man, as a prominent figure. And it was an honor, again, to have you back on the network, but particularly now having you as a guest on All About You. We're wrapping
Thank
up.
you.
You're welcome. We're kind of wrapping up on time, and I like to ask every guest this last question. If there's anything particularly about your life or what you're currently working on, feel free to let the people know. Thank you.
Well, one is that I would definitely like for people to know, uh, I'm actually, they're working on a movie on my life that's called All of a Sutton, like my last name Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're also my portion of my life have been selected for actual Black Film Festival to do a short film. It's called United by Vengeance, and that's all talking about how a young man that was a misunderstanding, and I left out the house angry, and I almost took his life because I thought he was somebody that tried to set me up, and it turned out I had the wrong person, and this guy and myself ended up talking, getting together, and that was when I was 17. And now that brother was my best man at my wedding, and I was the best man at his wedding.
Mm.
And now our daughters, who his daughter went to Howard, my daughter went to Jackson State, but our daughters are now friends and like best friends. And so how my entire life could have been different, but I had one person that stepped up And he said, "Hey, brother, I didn't know you knew my man Lloyd, and I was looking for a guy named Black Kenny, and I had the wrong person. And what I realized is, with the right words at the right time, and the right actions, you could change the trajectory of what was going to happen."
Right.
So a lot of people don't know how significant they really are, and that they could actually change, saying someone's life by just one act or one action at the right time.
Right. Well, those are great words and a great way to end this particular show of All About You. I mean, I'm definitely feel honored that I have you as a contact source, and hopefully you'll definitely be back on Face to Face at some point in 2024 if it's God's will, because your work and your movement definitely stands out, and there's a lot of things I know that you're currently working on that definitely would deserve some more additional airtime. But again, I definitely appreciate having you on this morning on All About You, and you have a very blessed rest of your day as well, Dr. Sutton.
Thank you. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, likewise. Okay, this is Jonathan Small. Just had the pleasure of hosting this edition of All About You with the guests, founder and CEO of the Sutton House, Inc., located in Baltimore, Maryland, no other than Dr. Sutton. And next week, I already have a guest lined up for Face to Face. Just got to fine tune a few things, try to keep it balanced from one week to another week, doing two different types of shows. But until people see me again out there, have a very blessed day and keep the faith. Thank you.